Hey everyone, this week I interview my friend Jamie Fisher. She's a photographer and conference host, and she shares her journey from wanting to be a maternity nurse to becoming a photographer and educator. We talked about the support she received from her family and friends during this transition, which a lot of times it's missed. It's something that not a lot of us have the opportunity to have. And really the impact of that personal loss and family impact during this career path. Jamie really talked about the importance of creating a personalized business plan and tailoring to the individual needs of your audience and your business itself. She also highlights the challenges of showing up on a difficult days of business ownership and the need for dedication and commitment as a business owner. I'm super excited to have her on the podcast. She's a co-host of the Conquer Live conference and she offers personalized education and very unique attendee to educator ratio for that conference. We talked about the conference, all the great stuff, and I can't wait for you to hear this episode. Let's dive in. Welcome to the Accidental CEO podcast, where we bridge the gap between the creativity you love and the CEO mindset you need. I'm your host, Nada Salvatore, wedding photographer and business educator. Find full show notes and resources at accidentalceopod.com. Let's get into today's episode. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Accidental CEO podcast. Today, I have Jamie Fisher with me. She is a photographer and conference host for the Conquer Live, and I'm so excited to have her here to share all things about her experience and the things that she teaches all the time. And she has a lot to tell you. So I'm excited to have her here. Welcome, Jamie.
Hi, thank you so much for having me today.
Awesome. So first, I would like for you to tell them what do you do, where you're located, all the things that you offer, and then we're gonna go into how you got there. We're gonna tell them your accidental CEO story.
Oh my goodness. Well, by now it's kind of a big long list, but I am in my 16th year of photography and 5th year of education. I am located in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, a wedding, family, and branding photographer there and educator for creatives.
So tell us, I know there was a career before this, or at least an intent to go to a different career before this, many years ago. So I want you to tell them the story because it's a fun one.
I like that you say many years of like, well, it is.
Well, not that many, but more than two for sure.
Yeah. Photography was definitely not on my radar whatsoever. When I started thinking about what I wanted to do after high school, I can't pinpoint if it was like late junior year or the first half of my senior year, but I had done a job shadowing day. You know, they're exposing you to all the different things that you could possibly want. You're taking personality tests and all of these different things to figure out, what it is that you're most excited about doing and what could be a career for you. Mine was a maternity nurse. Hands down, 100%, nothing else. That's what I was going to be. And so I went to a job shadowing day with my older sister. And it just so happens that that day they had I think every construction crew in the tri-state area come through. And it was just like rapid fire flu shots. A line of people and just like bam, bam, stab. That's like all I could see. I got really white, really I didn't pass out, but pretty close. Had to sit down and I was like, there is no way that I am doing this for good reason or not to any little baby. Like I just can't do it and I'm done. And that was that. Like it took that much to just be like, nope, not doing that.
Thank goodness for field work and shadowing opportunities. Can you imagine going through the whole education process and realizing, oh my gosh, I cannot do this?
No, not at all. Like that part was definitely put into play when it was for a reason because yeah, it's just crazy how dead set I was on that and something revealed to me that like this was not your path. Very clear.
Yeah, once that happened, how did your family and friends kind of react to that dramatic shift of like, I'm not doing this anymore? And how did you deal with you were so certain that that's what you wanted to do, and then out of the sudden, you're like, oh my gosh, I cannot do this. What am I going to do?
Yeah, this is This is like such a crazy story. And I'm just going to be completely transparent. I actually thought about maybe skipping over this just because it's not the story that everyone would expect. And it's a really hard time in my life. And I actually have never shared it publicly to like my community. But as far as the the support that I had in that decision and everything, I never saw a dramatic shift from those around me. So if there was something, an alert of some kind, my parents, my siblings, my best friends, like my teachers, nobody shared that with me. I always felt extremely supported in my choices. And up until, sorry,
No, it's okay. Take
up
it.
until and this was all throughout high school. Like any decision I have, I always felt completely backed in that, which I'm very, very lucky to have. I know that a lot of people do not have that. However, in the second part of my senior year, I was almost ready to graduate, and we lost one of my sisters in a car accident.
Mhm.
And I say that I think that like decision and that unveiling of this isn't what you're supposed to do happened right before that. I think it happened in that time for a reason
Mhm.
because I can't imagine having something like that happen and then also graduating high school, figuring out what you're going to do with the rest of your life and have no clue or think that you're going to go somewhere and then essentially fail in that because that's not what your path was meant to be on top of all the heaviness of everything that was happening right then. And so I truly believe like without a doubt that needed to be figured out before this happened. And I can't imagine like going through that loss and then also have to figure that out. But I'm very very lucky that honestly like even on all of my darkest times, there has been light around me.
Well, first, thanks for sharing. And I know that's not something easy. And I appreciate you choosing to share that because a lot of people are going to relate to it. So, it's nice that you did take the time to share your story. And like you said, it is, going through it's a lot of changes in that time of your life, anyways. So having to deal with that, having to deal with deciding what you want to do for the rest of your life, quote unquote. And I say that because many of us have changed professions even after I was in healthcare for 10 years and then started photography. So I actually went through all the training and did all the things and decided later. So I think it was probably a good time to go through that process and figure it out what you wanted and, giving you the space to then work everything else that you need to work out. So definitely, yeah, and I appreciate you sharing that. So you talked about your grandfathers having taken some photos and having some cameras and that having maybe some kind of influence on the path that you chose. Can you share a little bit about what kind of photography maybe he did and how did those experiences bled into your passion for photography?
When I decided that, I absolutely was not going forward with that, there was no like transition period for me, honestly. So I feel like even though I was so headstrong in I want to be a maternity nurse, this is the deal, this is for life. I was an honor student, athlete. I took every art or any variety of art classes like known to our school. And so art and photography were always a huge part of my life. And I was pretty good at it. And so it made me happy. And I just like naturally always had that outlet. My grandma and grandfather, they would travel every single summer, which was a really good, like something for me to see that they intentionally took that time together. They traveled out west and then they would come back and they'd always go a different route. So they would hit more states and more things that they hadn't seen. And my grandma always had a video camera, mainly when we were around to like record us. But my grandfather always had a camera. And especially on those trips, he would photograph everything. And after he passed away, that was what she had. And so she could sit for a whole afternoon flipping through not nearly as many photos as we can take today, but flipping through the ones that he had taken and just like recollect every little thing that they had done together. And so even though I loved, there's a favorite photo that my grandfather took, and I actually used it as part of a project. It was like this beautiful waterfall, and it was the very first composite piece that I had ever done in college. So that was really neat. I feel like parts of my history and my story I've always kind of utilized in an artful way, and it just seems to like kind of infiltrate all of my journey. But I think it truly was hearing the stories that spark in, an older person's brain that has so much information over their life that they might not be able to remember that without something that can trigger it. And so I think it was seeing like the power of a photograph that really solidified that for me.
Yeah, nothing like experiencing, right? The power of that memory. So amazing to see how much it can bring back to people, how much you can retain just by looking at those photographs. So that's awesome that you actually got to experience that with your family too. So you ended up going to university and you actually did something that most of us did not do, which is actually major in media arts, concentration in photography and TV. So you learned it the right way, as we say in university, got a degree. And during that time, you created a 5-year business plan. So I want to know how much of that business plan actually came to fruition. Was there any parts of it that you actually got to implement, or did you just throw everything out when you graduated and started from scratch? Tell me about that.
Well, this is kind of embarrassing because I could not tell you what was on that 5-year plan. I wish I could remember. Like, this is in 2008, and I can't remember everything that was on there. I've just lived so much life since then. But I do know that it was filled with all of the information that you could now Google, right? And create a business plan. So, yes, on paper, it looked good. It was, fulfilled enough for 5 years, but it's nothing that I would build today. It was not tailored like to my specific needs. I mean, I could take it and try to follow it, or also at the time, a 45-year-old man could take it and do it. There was nothing that was tailored to me. And the only thing I actually remember from that plan is because I did take it and I started to implement it in the beginning of my business. But it was like the very preliminary steps, right? Like opening a business account. I remember like sitting there asking the bank manager, because I opened up my account and I was like all excited. She gave me my folder with all my papers and stuff. And somewhere I had seen that somebody saved, they actually framed the first dollar they had ever made. And I just always thought that was like, if I ever open my own business, I want that. Like that was my trophy. Like I just wanted that to happen. And I sat there as I opened up that bank account and I asked her, I was like, should I ask her? No, I'm not. That's embarrassing. And I was like, okay, but you're not gonna know unless you ask. And I was like, do you happen to have a $1 bill that was printed in 2008? Like I wanted it to match the year that everything went official. And that's kind of silly and embarrassing, but
Did you
I was
get
I
it?
was very excited. She got it close. She had a 2007.
There you go. She went above and beyond. I love
So if
that.
anybody has a 2008, I will swap you my dollar.
That's and that I like what you said that about, it was just a generic plan. Like when I'm coaching my clients, to me it's very important. And that's why I love one-on-one coaching, is to make sure that you develop a plan that is individualized to what you need. People just try to implement everything that's out there, trying to figure it out what's going to stick when they don't even know what the actual problem is. If you're not taking the time to dig into and figure it out, what is causing the problem, what is getting you stuck, just applying all the solutions out there, it's not going to work for you. So individualized, the approach to the solution has to come from, really figuring out the cause, the true cause of the problem, which a lot of times it could be us, right? We can be the ones getting in our way more often than not. So really taking the time to analyze and figure out what's needed for your business, very, very important. So your business has evolved a lot since 2008, from photographing weddings to leading an associate team. You serve brands and families, do the education. What do you think is the most challenging aspect of this evolution?
I think the hardest thing is probably being able to show up on the hard days, because most of the time, even if you are in the very beginning of your business where you truly are every facet of that business, right? Like you are it. You have all of the hats. But whether you're in the beginning or, you're 5, 10 years, 15 years, there are still parts that are going to need you and only you to move it forward. And that's when I think it's the hardest. When life is happening, there are other things that are needing your attention and your responsibilities. And you probably don't feel like showing up to work that day. I think that's the hardest thing, no matter what is going on in your business.
I can, we're all humans. It's not hard to be on the top of your game every day. But I think, at the same time, when we work for somebody else, you have that job. Even if you're not having a great day, you're going to show up and you're going to do your work. So we deserve the same dedication that we would be willing to give somebody else that we will work for. So you're not feeling good, you still need to show up and do at least the basics, right? At least the minimum to keep your business afloat. So you own it to yourself to be as dedicated to your own business as you would be if you're working for somebody else. So,
Oh my goodness. Have you ever seen the commercial? It's for parents, and I think it's like for a cold medicine or whatever. And it says parents don't get sick days.
right? No, I haven't.
Oh, it's hilarious. Like the babies are sick, all the kids are sick, and the parents are sick too. And they're like, taking Dayquil or something like that. But that just reminded me of that. I'm like, that is so hilarious and also completely relevant to business owners. Like, you don't get sick days.
100%. I was not feeling good over the weekend, and I had many sessions for Mother's Day, and I was like, literally considering going to the hospital. That's how bad it was. For me to say I need to go to the hospital, it was not good. And I'm like, I just need to finish the sessions. I cannot cancel this. Mother's Day is coming. These people need these pictures. I'm like, I'm just gonna go and get it done. And then if I need to go straight from there to the hospital, I'll do it. But I need to do these sessions first.
And that's the type of dedication I think that a lot of people don't see, right? Even if they can tell that you're not feeling your best, especially if it's something that's not evident like a cold. People really don't see how dedicated I think, photographers in the creative community in general actually is to serving their clients.
Yeah. I mean, it's at least I don't, but most people don't go and advertise,
Right.
they're
Yeah.
struggling. I can tell you, none of my clients knew I was about to go to the hospital right after a session. Today's episode is sponsored by Accidental CEO. Hello there, my CEOs. I'm Nada Salvatore, founder of Accidental CEO, an education and coaching platform where we believe every surprise in your career is a step towards greatness. Whether you found yourself unexpectedly in charge or you're actively seeking to climb the leadership ladder, we are here to guide you. I specialize in transforming emergent leaders like you into confident CEOs through target education and personalized coaching. With Accidental CEO, you gain access to exclusive workshops, one-on-one coaching, and a suite of online courses designed to hone your skills, refine your strategies, and amplify your business powers. My approach is tailored to fit your unique journey. I understand the twists and turns of becoming a CEO, especially when it's unexpected. That's why my programs are flexible, comprehensive, and driven by real-world success experiences. Don't just take the lead, master it. Our supportive community is here to ensure you emerge as a visionary leader, equipped to navigate any challenges and seize all opportunities. Visit us today at accidentalceo.co to learn more about how we can help transform your accidental position into a deliberate and successful leadership legacy. Accidental CEO, where you learn to lead not by chance, but by choice. So, as an educator, you help a lot of business owners in the past 5 years. What are some of the common challenges that you see them facing, and how do you guide them through overcoming these obstacles?
I think it is kind of crazy because I'm sure that you've heard this too, whether you're starting your photography business or you're moving into education. Mentors have told me, your people will find you, like your people will be attracted to you. And sometimes you're like, yeah, but how? Like, what am I doing? Right. But whether you're doing it intentionally or not, your people do find you. And I didn't know this was true until I started to try to identify what these trends are. And I'm like, man, she was right. because I thought I was just, helping anybody that walked through my door, except the people that were walking through the door had they were all coming for different reasons. But when it boiled down to it, it was all based on a capacity, their time capacity, and then sustainability. So basically, what that looked like was, they found it difficult to create a sustainable work life rhythm. And they were really tired of the natural nature that I think can happen with an unintentional photography business of this feast or famine cycle. And so those are the things that no matter what anybody has come to work with me for, those are the things that seem to be on repeat.
Yeah, definitely see that very often too. How do you help them kind of overcome those obstacles?
I think that when we start to go through that, it seems counterintuitive. Well, not counterintuitive, but it seems like I'm like, okay, we're coming in with this problem, but actually we need to start all the way back here so that we can have a solid foundation on doing it. So I think the first thing, no matter what I walk through everybody with, is to strip that down. And then tangibly, what that could look like is like personalized capacity audits, setting data driven goals so that we have something to measure, so we know if, this strategy is being in the positive or not, and ensuring that the pricing of the business is not just profitable, but it's purposeful. So with all of this, I'm not looking at it just in the business aspect, but we're also going to kind of look at it through the lens of, okay, but does this plan fit your life, right? Because if somebody's capacity is 16 hours a week because they have, a 3-month-old baby, they're not going to be able to produce the same things as somebody who's single and can do 40 hours or 80 hours and love it, right? Like they might not want to do that, but somebody out there does love to do that. And so it's a little bit different. Like we need to make sure that everything is aligned for that sustainability piece.
Let's talk about Conquer Live. So, you co host this very amazing conference. Tell us a little bit more about your role and what makes Conquer Live unique in the world of photography education.
Oh, I love this so much. I host Conquer Live along with my co-host. That sounds like a lot of hosting. Along with Heather Lacey, and it's kind of, I say like it's crazy, and I feel like I don't know, like a middle school girl that's just all excited for like her first concert or something, because this started with no business, no conference, no nothing in mind. We hosted a free room on Clubhouse during the pandemic, basically for photographers to come together. No one was able to practice their craft, support one another, but also there was a large group of people who had just started their businesses in 2019 or January of 2020. When March hit, like, how defeating would that feel? And I know the passion that you feel from photographing. These people haven't even gotten a little taste of it. And if they even, had an inkling that, oh my goodness, this is the impact I can have with it, we certainly didn't want that to be fizzled out. And so showing support to our industry in that way not only gave us something to do, but it also filled our cups up as well, because we were able to still keep in touch with our industry. And so it started with that, continued on. We actually still host bi-weekly free education calls. So it's a really great value for anybody that's coming in. And then that morphed into actually the people that were on the calls saying, hey, where are you at? And like everyone was sharing, what states they were in, and if there were little pods of them. They were already kind of setting up those meetups, and they're like, we all need to meet. We all need to meet. And we're like, okay, like we all need to meet.
Let's do it.
And so so that's where like Conquer Live, the conference, came from. But when we went into it, we didn't just want to copy other events that we had been to. We wanted to stick with listening to our audience. And this is like a peek behind the curtain, but during I believe this, oh goodness, my math is going to be messed up. It's like 3 or 2 years of doing these weekly calls where every time we hopped on a call, we were documenting every single question that was asked. And then when we created Conquer Live, it was directly from all of the pain points that everybody had within our community. So it was truly custom tailored education to our community. And we have carried that through. So now we are gearing up. We're actually planning round 3 of Conquer Live. And I think what truly sets it apart is we look at the actual ticket holders, and that is how we decide who the educators are and what the topics are. So it pays off to get a ticket early because we're asking those questions and we're making sure that it's tailored to them. We have a 2-to-1 ratio with attendees to educators. So that is something that's very unique. That doesn't happen anywhere, at least yet. It's only at Conquer Live that you get to have that many educators in a room. And on that note, we all stay in the same house for the entirety of the event. So those little magical things that we had talked to previously about that, those happen exponentially simply because we are all staying in the same gigantic house.
That's awesome. Yeah, I didn't know that ratio is really cool and definitely different and something that I think will bring so much more opportunities for the people that attend. So that's amazing that you guys do that. Is the in between, right, that we were talking about earlier, that brings sometimes the big moments for you. It's not the lectures are great, but sometimes a side conversation that you have over coffee with somebody is the big turning point for somebody. So I love that you offer a good amount of that in combination with the structured education too. So that's awesome.
Yeah, those light bulbs in, like, the unexpected times, it's kind of similar to when you're photographing, right? Like, things always happen in between whatever your plan is, and
Mhm.
you're like, "Oh, that was my favorite image from the whole thing." That's, like, what this is like on an education level because you'll see little light bulbs and you'll hear people, like, they'll be, cheering because they just understood something, or educators that get real excited or, like, actually point the room, like, in their direction and be like, "Do you know what they just did?"
Yes.
So it's yeah, it's pretty cool.
And then tell everybody, this Conquer Live change locations every year? How many times a year does it happen? Give them a little bit more information on that.
Oh, sure. Yes, it is every January, once a year. And the fact that we do have that 2-to-1 ratio also determines like the size house that we are in. So that kind of dictates how many tickets we actually have. So it's not like we can just continuously bring people in, which is another like unique kind of aspect of that. But we started out in South Carolina. We went to Florida, and now we are going to Missouri, and now that just left me the place that it is, Lake something. Oh man, I'm not gonna know this. I have never been there, but when we announced it, everyone was super excited, and you could see the comments that came through was like, "No way, I live right there! Like this is the hidden
Oh,
gem.
that's
Nobody
great.
knows. Like this is where we go, for vacation or whatever." It's Table Rock Lake, and I'm really, really embarrassed that I had to look that up.
Ah, there's a lot of information on that brain, woman. Don't be sorry. Don't be sorry. That's awesome. So let's bring it back to photography a little bit more. Especially weddings and lifestyle photography is really deeply rooted in capturing legacy. How do you approach that responsibility of preserving those moments for your clients?
In my heart of hearts, like I just live for the details. And when I say that, wedding photographers are going to be like, "Oh, me too!" Like invitation suites, rings, whatever. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about all the pretty things. Me and my husband have this joke, and I'll tell him a story, and I think that every little detail needs to be told. And he's like, James, the back cover. Back cover is what I need, not the entire novel." But that has always been my style of communication. If somebody is telling me a story, especially my grandmother, like I will sit for hours and just listen to her talk. And I don't know what it is, but that is just so ingrained in my brain that I try to then put that and infuse that into client experience. And so I think tangibly that looks like being curious, number one, asking questions, be genuinely interested in finding out more about them than you are in, talking about yourself. And then peppering that into client experience with intentional touch points. So that can be the questions that you put inside of a questionnaire, what you're going to hit on when you have a call with them. And then not just asking them to ask, because I know a lot of people educate on this and share that, we should be doing these things to connect with them. But if you don't do anything, it's kind of like your, social media analytics, right? If you just look at them and you don't make any changes or don't do anything with them, then it doesn't do anything. You're essentially wasting everyone's time in that. But if you think about what their answers are, I always think about the impact of the photos that I'm taking in a bigger way than just the couple or the family that's in front of them. I think about what do, their children or their children's children need to know about these people that are in front of me. So I think, like, very simply, you need to be a lover of people because people matter and their stories definitely do.
Yeah, I love that. Thinking about what generations down the road would want to know about these people and how can you tell that story with your photos. Do you still photograph weddings and families? Are you still grabbing the
I
camera?
do. The majority of my weddings now, my associate team photographs, but I still do 3 to 5 a year.
Okay. Okay. So transitioning from, just being behind the camera a lot to now being an educator, what was the most rewarding part of that transformation for you personally?
I think obviously being a photographer was something that I just dove headfirst in. Like, once that decision was made, that was where I was going. And there have been so many rewarding moments in that. But when I shifted into education, I think that opened my eyes to the fact that it's not just stories that I'm helping people remember anymore, that I have actual impact on stories that are unfolding right now, changes in family, especially when we're talking about things like sustainability and the time that these photographers are going to get back and what they're going to do with that. One of my students was going to take it and travel around the United States with her husband. Another one was literally carving out time so that they could be at the pool this summer. Like, having that time and knowing that those stories are shifting, that I get to walk alongside of them and make that happen. It's not just documenting stories that are already done. That has been so powerful.
I love that. That's being part of helping somebody, achieving those goals and care for their family. It definitely does bring some joy. I agree with you. I'm on the same boat. That's why I love teaching, and education has been part of my life for so many years, even before photography, that I'm glad that I was able to, you know, bring this back into my life after shooting for a few years. It was starting to itch. Like, I wanted to make sure I was passing things along again and helping other people along the way. Because you can't just, you learn, you have all this knowledge and all this experience. Why not? Why not share? Why not help others? There's plenty of business for all of us out there. No need to be gatekeeping and not sharing all of that.
I love that so much. And that's how our industry grows, right? Like, you don't want to pour all this into an industry and then like kind of hoard it all to yourself, because then it fizzles out with you if you are not giving to the next generation of photographers who are coming up. And then you're essentially stealing all of what they have to impact the world. You're just setting your industry behind.
Yeah, you learn from somebody else, and as much as we want to believe, we're not going to be here forever, so pass it on, people. For somebody who's just starting now, just based on your own experiences and lessons you've learned, what would be your main advice for them?
I think you kind of just like alluded to what my answer was going to be. But I think the only thing that is guaranteed is that time will keep moving forward. And so it's up to you to decide what you want to do with it.
Amen. So, Jamie, tell everybody where to find you if they want to learn more about you and the Conquer Live conference and work with you.
Oh, sure. This was so exciting. I appreciate you having me today. And if you want to connect more, I am most certainly in my DMs. I will voice DM you personally because that I'm like convinced is my love language. So I'm always on Instagram at Jamie Fisher Collective. And same if it's on Facebook. The Conquer community is just that, the Conquer community on Instagram. And I would love for you to join, our calls. We have educators and students alike on there. I actually have a free guide that I would love to share with your audience if they want. I know a lot of what we talked about today was intentionality and tailoring your business to you and really finding what works for you. And I have a free guide that's stale to scroll stopping. And this is an intentional guide that showcases kind of the person and the heart behind the business, and you can take it and go shoot your own brand session. It talks about 3 ways, but there's really 33 different ideas in there. So don't tell me you have nothing to post on social media. You can grab this, and it is completely free.
That's awesome. We'll make sure we link that, and we'll link the conference for everybody to participate to and check it out. Thank you so much for being with me today and sharing your experiences and your views and all the strategies that you share with the audience. We appreciate you.
Oh, thank you so much. I loved spending the morning with you.
Perfect. Thank you, everybody, for being with us today. And we hope to see you again next week for another episode of the Accidental CEO podcast. Bye. And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Accidental CEO podcast. Thanks for hanging out with us in the world where creativity and business strategy collide. I am Nada Salvatore, thrilled to have shared this time with you. Remember, every episode is a step closer to mastering the art of being an accidental CEO. So don't miss out. Hit subscribe, drop us a sweet review, and spread the word to your creative tribe. Your next big breakthrough could be just one episode away. Join us next time for more insights, laughs, and actionable tips. Keep pushing boundaries, dreaming big, and embracing the beautiful chaos of entrepreneurship. Here's to make magic happen in your business and beyond.